With new private space companies such as SpaceX and the emerging of new government players like China and India, we're witnessing the beginning of a new space race. This is a ranking of the 10 most exciting rockets currently under development around the world. These rockets are all orbital class launchers and are stated to have their first flight by the end of this decade. This is my personal ranking, so you might not agree with it. If you think I'm forgetting a rocket that deserves to be on this list, please leave me a comment. We begin our list with the Vulcan Centaur from United Launch Alliance at number 10. ULA is a joint venture between US aerospace giants Boeing and Lockheed Martin. The Vulcan is meant to replace both the Delta IV Heavy and the Atlas V rockets, so it aims mostly at launching US national security and US Space Force satellites. There is no real plan for usability at this stage, although there have been talks about recovering the first stage engines. Launches will be fairly expensive, with prices ranging from $82 million to $200 million depending on the mission. The first stage will be powered by two BE-4 engines made by Blue Origin and be configurable with up to 6 solid rocket boosters, bringing payloads of up to 27 tons to low Earth orbit and 14 tons to geostationary transfer orbit in its most powerful configuration. The maiden flight is planned to take place in Q4 2021. Up next, Europe is taking the 9th spot with the Ariane 6, stated to replace the aging and more expensive Ariane 5. Ariane 6 uses a design similar to Ariane 5, with the core stage powered by the improved version of the Hydrolox Vulcan engine, and the second stage using a new Vinci engine. Ariane 6 exists in two configurations: Ariane 62, the least powerful with 2 SRBs, and Ariane 64, the heavy version with 4 SRBs. Launches are projected to cost 75 million euros for Ariane 62 and 115 million euros for Ariane 64. In its heavy configuration, Ariane 6 has a payload similar to that of the Vulcan Centaur, at 21 tons to LEO and almost 12 tons to GTO. The first test flight is scheduled for Q2 2022. In 8th position, we have the H3 rocket from Japan, developed by Mitsubishi Heavy Industry and JAXA. The H3 is somewhat similar to the Ariane 6, as it is intended to replace the H2A rocket, is available with 2 or 4 SRBs, has a Hydrolox first stage, and is projected to cost half as much as the rocket it replaces. In its heaviest configuration, the H3 can lift close to 8 tons to GTO. Similar to the Ariane 6 rocket, there is no current plan for usability. We can expect a first flight by the end of 2021. Taking number 7 is a rocket that created a lot of excitement when it was unveiled recently. The Neutron rocket, by the California-based company Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab has made its name with the small sat launcher Electron that can lift 300 kilograms to low Earth orbit. The Neutron is a big step up with a payload to LEO of 8 tons. That's only half the payload of launchers like SpaceX Falcon 9 or the upcoming Vulcan, but in about the same category as the Russian Soyuz. The Neutron is the first launcher on our list that is planned to be reusable. It will reuse the first stage in a very similar way to the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. The Neutron has been described as a purpose-made constellation builder and, very excitingly, is also stated to be human-rated. Neutron is expected to launch by 2024. Moving to an emerging player in the new space race, we have India's ULV at number 6. ISRO has been a very promising actor of the past decade, with launch vehicles that are quite capable while often being cheaper than their Western counterparts. The United Launch Vehicle is an attempt to unite all of ISRO's rockets into a single family of configurable launchers. This would provide more flexibility and reduce costs. There is, however, very few information at this stage, and don't expect a launch in the near future. 5th place is taken by the rocket that has arguably the biggest shoes to fill, the Space Launch System, or SLS, from NASA. The SLS is NASA's 21st century Saturn V. SLS is an expendable, super heavy lift launcher. It is designed to launch deep space missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. SLS reuses some proven components from the Space Shuttle, like the 2 solid rocket boosters and 4 RS-25 Space Shuttle engines on the first stage. In its most powerful configuration, SLS will be able to lift 130 tons to LEO, or more than 50 tons to the Moon. The cost of the Space Launch System is, however, a source of heavy criticism. The launch of one SLS is projected to cost upwards of $2 billion. There have been growing calls for NASA to use commercial rockets instead for its deep space missions. After multiple delays, SLS is now scheduled to go to space before the end of 2021. At number 4, we are looking at the Long March 9. It is China's CNSA answer to the SLS. Long March 9 is still in the early days of development and shouldn't be ready before 2030. It is a very ambitious program, designed to have a maximum payload of 140 tons to low Earth orbit. There had been no information about a potential path to reusability, but the Chinese rockets have in the past been cheaper than their American counterparts. In addition to giving China the capability for deep space human missions, the Long March 9 will increase the pressure on the other government agencies and private companies to improve their own deep space capabilities. Third place goes to the New Glenn rocket from Blue Origin. Blue Origin is a private US-based rocket manufacturer founded by Amazon chairman Jeff Bezos. The New Glenn is its first orbital class launcher, and Blue Origin is shooting straight for the heavy lift category. New Glenn boasts a reusable first stage with 7 BE-4 engines. The first stage will land on a ship similar to SpaceX Falcon 9. The launcher is designed to launch 45 tons to low Earth orbit inside its huge fairing. After delays, the maiden flight is scheduled for the end of 2022. The second spot is taken by the Terran R rocket from Relativity Space. This is the one that was the hardest to decide. Terran R is a very ambitious rocket from a manufacturer that has yet to send a single payload to space. But Relativity Space has a lot going for itself. It was founded by former employees from Blue Origin and SpaceX, and has secured significant financial backings. Relativity Space's big differentiating factor is in its in-house 3D printing technology. Relativity Space aims to produce the vast majority of the components of its rockets via 3D printing, reducing the number of moving parts by orders of magnitude. Terran R is aimed to compete with Falcon 9, with a payload of 20 tons to LEO. The very exciting part is that Relativity Space plans to reuse the entirety of the rocket, including the second stage. There are as of yet very few details on how that would work, but Relativity Space has teased that it would be possible thanks to the new design enabled by their 3D printing technology. And finally, first place obviously goes to SpaceX's upcoming Starship rocket. Starship is a super heavy, crew-rated, fully reusable launcher. In its cargo configuration, Starship could send more than 100 tons to LEO in its massive payload bay, for a price as low as a couple $1,000,000. Starship is made of two stages, a reusable first stage called Super Heavy and a reusable second stage called Starship. For deep space missions, the Starship is also the spacecraft, making it by far the biggest spacecraft ever made. For these missions, Starship will exhaust its fuel to get in Earth orbit, and will then be refueled by a tanker Starship in orbit. Starship launches are projected to be so cheap that even including the multiple refuelings needed in orbit, a mission to Mars or to the Moon would still be orders of magnitude cheaper than with any other rocket. Starship is currently being tested at Boca Chica, Texas, and progress is being made at a very fast pace. Starship's payload capabilities, combined with its extremely low launch price, could make it the single most disruptive rockets in decades. I really feel like we are at the beginning of a very exciting chapter in human history. The development of reusable rockets and the new competition brought on by private players and space agencies is pushing rocket technology forward. This is enabling a future where resources and energy are accessible in abundance in space. Manufacturing of exotic materials is made possible by zero-G, and space travel has become as commonplace as air travel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. This was Lithium, thank you for watching.